doing well. It's a beautiful fall day in Lake Placid, New York.
Beautiful.
I think it's still pretty hot in South Georgia from what I hear.
Sure.
Let's see, go live.
All right, we got recording here. Yeah.
We're getting going.
Check, check. Yes.
Okay. Is it showing up?
Piling in.
Okay, awesome. Everybody's coming on board. We'll see where it goes from there. Okay, let me get back to Zoom. There, perfect. Okay, so hi everybody. Josh, you want to get us going?
Yeah, let's go, guys. All right, so welcome to another episode here of Intrepid Spirits. So glad to have you. It's middle of September. Things are moving right along. Hope everyone is well. A few housekeeping things before we get going with a very interesting guest, Tyler, on board today. Looking forward to hearing some thoughts that he has around the marketing space and digital marketing. So we'll get to that in a second. Before we move on, just want to let everybody know, as you've been here, if this is your first time or if you've been here many times, we like to connect over on Facebook. So if you guys are seeing people on the call today that you'd like to reconnect with, I know there's lots of old friends here, please do on our Facebook page, Intrepid Spirits. We'll have a recording of this episode there as well. So please join us there for this episode as well as any others from the Intrepid Spirits network will be posted on the Facebook page. With that said, as we go through and we listen to Tyler today, please add any thoughts in the chat section or the question section so we can ask any questions to Tyler or have him clarify anything. And we'll be good to go. So with that, over to you, Dill.
And before Dill goes, I have to say, hey, Raymond, how you doing?
And hey, congratulations on Czechoslovakia. Yeah, the Music World Cup. Okay, so, hi guys. The sea is dangerous, its storms are terrible, but these have never been sufficient reasons to remain ashore. Unlike timid souls, intrepid spirits seek victory over those things that seem impossible. It was with an iron will that they depart on the most daring of all adventures to meet the shadowy future without fear and conquer the unknown. Boom! Now, the last 2 weeks have been very special to Susan and I. In 1999, exact date, June 23rd, I got an email that Coke had a problem in Belgium, complete product recall. On the 26th, we got married 21 years ago, and we went to Belgium. And a guy named Peter Shellstrader, a really good friend of ours, turned us on to the Tour de France. And every morning now for the last 20 years, we wake up and we watch the Tour de France. And the thing that I love about that is the domestiques. These are the selfless guys that ride those bikes and lead their leader and do all the bloody work so these guys can truly be remarkable. These people are so special. And there's a ton of people that'll watch this over the next week or so that understand domestiques, because that's what we were for the Olympics, for every major client we ever worked for and with. And all you people out there know that we're the domestiques. We work our butt off to make sure we sell the product for our people. And it's a truly special trait. It's called servant leadership at its finest. And I'm so proud of all of you to continue on in that spirit of servant leadership. And with that, sunshine.
Great. All right, so Tyler is our guest today, and I know his dad, Bruce Barnett, I have to admit, much better than Tyler. Getting to know Tyler over the last several months with his company. But you know, it's interesting because we met Bruce through a passion, and I think of Tyler's as well, of servant leadership, is through the Alzheimer's organization that he has put together to help families be caretakers. And that definitely takes a lot of servant leadership when you're working with loved ones that don't even remember who you are anymore, and try to make their life comfortable and better for those all around. So we've really got to enjoy to know Bruce, and Bruce, of course, is very proud of his children. And so he's always been telling me about Tyler, who's doing all this work with the internet, and you know, he's not quite sure what all it does, but it, you know, it's really working and helping people sell more of their products. So I got the opportunity to work with Great Seed a few weeks ago with a client about, you know, digital marketing, and he really started training me a little bit about how all the targeting and the marketing and everything works. So I thought this would be good for our group to get a little overview of how it really all works, and so we can be a little bit more prepared as we're marketed to, and for those of us that are also marketers. So Tyler, I'll turn it over to you.
Okie dokie. Hey everyone, I'm Tyler. Susan and Dell, thanks so much for having me. Just a little note, like when I speak, I'm very intense. I'm not yelling at you. This just really lights me up. You may need to turn down your speakers. But okay, so this is all sort of invisible, what we're talking about. So I'm going to share my screen just to sort of anchor us sometimes. But what we're talking about today is called programmatic buying. It's also called addressable media. These are all sort of interchangeable, people-based buying. And basically the idea is that we use software and data to make media buying decisions. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, so this is all has happened in the past 10 years. So about 10 years ago, if you wanted to, if you wanted to reach men, you went to a network about golf, and you said, "Oh, I want to make a buy." You call somebody at that network. You say, "I need to make a buy. I need $1 million. We want to put Guinness beer in front of men." Okay, all right. Well, that's where we think men hang out. All right. Well, where do women hang out? Where does this race hang out? And so that's how we really made our media buying decisions. And so you can think about that, that sounds so old fashioned, that's sort of analogous to how we would, when I was growing up, would book a hotel. I would, call around to hotels. Okay, this is the size bed I want. Yes, I want a pool room view. All right, I want to be in this area. And that was, if you remember, replaced by Expedia. What really Expedia could do, where we would just now plug in. Okay, this is how many beds I want. These are the dates I'm going to be there. I want a pool. This location. Then it spits out everything that we want. Well, the same thing happened in the last 10 years with advertising, and that is really what revolutionized the space. You can see the cover of Advertising Age. They called it the programmatic revolution. It wasn't hyperbole at all. People lost their jobs. Their function in marketing changed. Things that they were doing were no longer needed, and things that people needed were never existed before. My first position in programmatic buying, during the interview, they said, "Do you know what programmatic buying is?" I said, "No." They said, "Don't worry, nobody does." And so that's how new it was. And so basically, you could think of it like this. What is happening to us all day is basically we're all being bought and sold in some ways. Whether you think you're participating, whether you have your cookies turned off, whatever we think we're doing to control, data and our exposures, somehow, some way or another, we're all involved. And what's really amazing is how this happens. So it happens in milliseconds. So whether or not you visit a website, so let's say you visit CNN, whether or not you're watching connected television, so Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Roku, Chromecast, whether or not you're listening to digital audio, so Spotify, Pandora, even any apps. Let's say even you walk past a billboard, a digital billboard. Okay, when this happens, we go to auction. An auction takes place. And so I'm just going to run through what happens. All right. So imagine you visit, just think of your favorite website, whatever. You go to the New York Times. So within 100 milliseconds, an auction takes place. And so companies like Grapeseed, or you have Coke, you have Pizza Hut, maybe you have a political campaign. Everyone's called over to say, okay, who is this person, and what media are they consuming? Are they a good fit for us? And so that's like step one. You create the opportunity for an ad. All right. So an impression is announced. Now this is taking place on the cross exchange marketplace. You can think of this sort of like it's an exchange. It's called the real time bidding exchange. This is also called RTB, real time bidding. Okay, so everyone's called over. It's just like if you're at an auction for like Christie's, it's like, all right, here's a desk. Well, all right, well, it's just a desk. How old is the desk? What type of wood is it made out of? Well, who sat at the desk? Was it Queen Elizabeth? Or was it a school desk? For kindergartners. All these things matter. We do the same thing with media. We are asking the same things about you. Did you put shoes in the shopping cart yesterday, or did you put them in last week? What color were they? How old are you? What have you purchased lately on Amazon? All of these things these are all called media and user variables, and these are all evaluated by a software that we program to say, here's who we want, and here's how much we want to pay for them. And there's all these different buckets. Depending on how valuable you are, the more we'll pay. And so this is where the auction takes place. So it's a blind auction though. So we put in our bid for you, and then if we win the bid, because maybe, for instance, think of it like this: you order Pizza Hut every Sunday. Pizza Hut knows that. They are waiting for your order to come in. You order it at 6 o'clock, and it still hasn't come in. They know where are you? Maybe you need to be reminded. But let's say J. Crew, you just put shoes in your shopping cart yesterday. They know that how long it usually takes for users to pull the trigger. If you haven't done it in a certain amount of time, they may lose you. And then you have Coke saying, okay, well, they're not that valuable to me. If you don't get Tyler on this ad, we'll get him on another ad. We don't want to bid too much. So everybody puts in their bids based on what you've done, what you've watched. This goes down to the level of we know what commercials you've seen lately. If you've been exposed to, let's say Coke, let's say Pepsi, we know you've been exposed to 5 Pepsi ads that day. Coke will know that, and we'll say, okay, now let's show them a Coke ad. So that's how detailed this can become. Anyway, so you serve the ad, and then after that ad is served, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. So after the ad is served, then we know everything that happens. Okay, so we know if it's a video ad, how long you watch the video for. In certain environments, you can't skip the ad, like in connected television, you can't skip the ad. And so unless you change the app. So we start measuring, all right, completion rates. How long did you watch the video? Audio completion rates. How long did you listen to the audio? We know if there's a banner, a lot of people think it's about clicks. Not so much. That was like in the 90s. Once you see banners on websites, a lot of what times users do now is they'll go Google the product. Once they Google the product, then they'll go to the web page. We can tie. Now on that web page, we have an eyeball. Okay, it's a tracking pixel. That tracking pixel now if you visit after you're on CNN, now you're exposed to a leaderboard ad. Okay, now you didn't click. You went to Google. You typed in the name of the book that that you saw. Okay, all right, now it comes up in Google. Now you go to that page. That now we can say, all right, that user on CNN and in this zip code with this type of ad performed this action on the site, and that's called like a post-view conversion. Then there's post-click conversions if you do click, and so now once that happens, that's all fed into the software. Okay, the algorithm is now seeing, all right, what's working and what's not, and so then we start making decisions on, all right, so where to place media. So we want to spike the areas with money that are working, and we want to turn down or turn off what's not working. This is called additive and reductive optimization. So, so the whole point of this is to save money. This is all about efficiency as it relates to cost. And so that's bidding efficiency, who we're bidding on. It's about making intelligent buying decisions. And that's why really it revolutionized the space, because it saves advertisers money. It went from basically the bazooka approach to the rifle approach. And all of this, everything really comes down to, to cash. And so once this was presented, that we can now use data to make informed decisions on the impression by impression level. Every single impression is bought. 10 years ago, you'd make that call. All right, I'm going to buy 1 million eyeballs on Oprah. Okay, whatever it was. Like, we don't, it's not necessarily all women watching Oprah, but if your brand is only geared towards women, you're going to have a lot of waste there to the men. What we say now when we work with brands is, well, we're going to pre-qualify that user as a woman, and so we're going to exclude men. And so we're not going to waste those dollars. And so that was really compelling. And that's what revolutionized the space. And so, any questions so far?
It just amazes this season. It's like, you talk about all this, like the bidding and auctioning and stuff. It's really driven not by humans, right? It's all algorithms, and it's happening so quickly. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, Susan. So what happened to us was really an arms race. So as this was all developing, every company was, well, basically the most successful platform was developed by, kids in college, to start doing this. Once this was adopted, all of the companies, it became an arms race. Who can get the software? Whose software is the best? Whose algorithm works the best? And a lot of that was sort of a razzle-dazzle them. This is what we can do. And it was all these amazing things, but really a lot of it was theory. All of it was, we know we'll be able to do this one day. And the execution of it was not so great. So the premise is deliver the right message to the right user at the right time. But we know that a lot of the time that hardly ever happens, right? And why isn't it happening? Well, because whether it's the quality of the data or how humans set up the software, the campaigns, there was some type of failure there. And so we really do need humans to build the campaigns, to say, here's what we're looking for. Here's the data that we're selecting. So there's different types of data. There's seed level data. Think of it this way. Seed level data sounds like a seed, okay? And model data. You want seed level data. Seed level data is the action that's happening. If you have any apps running on your phone, most likely all of those apps are pinging your location. And so what we do, let's say we served you an ad for J. Crew, okay? You're watching Apple TV, and then you bring your phone into a J. Crew. There's polygons that we've drawn around every location and everywhere in the world, basically. Not we work with partners who do this, okay? So it's an ecosystem, we all team up. And so once you enter into that J. Crew, your coordinates are then identified as a J. Crew, and then we tie that media event, when you saw that ad on Apple TV, to your walk-in on J. Crew. And then we say to J. Crew, we achieved a walk-in. And then so for a campaign like that, you would want to drive as many walk-ins as possible. And so setting up a campaign to be intelligent and make those decisions, we really do need humans to do that. Unfortunately, what's happened is a lot of people think this is automated buying, it is robots, but it's not. You still need really smart people to tell the computers what to do, which is really what humans can do, which is bind the media in 100 milliseconds. But we need to tell the computer, the software, what we're looking for, or else it's just junk. And that's why a lot of times we all experience ads that don't make sense for us. And it's really a failure at the human level and not at the software level. That's just doing what we told it to do.
Great.
Yeah. Any questions? Okay. So another example, about that's really cool is the data that we use is not just about your behaviors, what you've done, where you've been. Although we could say we want to target people who have been to Jamba Juice every week in the past year, who visited a BMW dealership, who also occasionally go to a pizza restaurant, who go to the gym twice a week, we want people who drop their kids off of school. Okay, this is someone who visits a school, every day. And so you can create these profiles that are really amazing and not model data. Remember, model data, not so great. That's like lookalike data. It's like, okay, well, this person's a man, they're this age, they did this. Let's find all these other men that in that age, they'll probably do the same thing. Not really. That we know that people aren't robots. There's a multiplicity to all of us. So the seed level data, remember, that's the best. That's, you are going to the person, the user who created those events. We're going to the people who went to the Jamba Juice, not people who look like them, right? So, but one of the really cool applications of this is with the weather. So programmatic digital out of home, these are all real world screens. So sidewalk kiosks, billboards, subway stops, the elevators, the screens in the elevators, doctor's offices. These are, we can control these the same way we would do with the website. And one of the cool things is, like, we were working with a retailer to market outerwear for the winter. And so we can put into the software that when the temperature drops to this temperature in whatever area it is, then put up an ad for coats. You want to feel the coat ad is not going to work well if everyone's boiling hot. But how do you get that ad ready to run when on a daily basis, when we can't necessarily forecast that weather? How do we anticipate that? Perfect application for this. So we say that when the temperature drops below 30 degrees, put the ad up. Do it on a location by location level. So if in this zip code it's not, then that zip code doesn't show the ads. So that's, like, you can think of that as a event-based dynamic targeting. So there are certain events that will trigger the ads automatically.
Yeah, that's wild. But I'm sure, does anybody else have any questions? Because I know that it's kind of mind-blowing on what all they can do. And yeah. my question that a lot of us have, Tyler, is, does the phone really hear us talking and then we get the ad that we were just talking about?
So that's actually the most common question I get. The answer is that no. The answer is no, okay? But if that would be data that we would use, okay? If that data was available, okay, we would have to buy it. That data is not for sale for us. So when people say, okay, well, I got it, I was just talking to my friends about Nike shoes on the phone, I got an ad for Nike. What we say is, well, that's because actually the other marketing has become so smart that we have assessed you as already maybe wanting that. We know the last time you went into a shoe store. We know it was 8 months ago and that the turnover for sneakers is this, and now you're due for your new shoes, so we start serving the ads. So it's, if the data for the listening part, was actually available, we would be able to buy it, okay? Because it wouldn't be free. It's not available to us. And if, let's say, okay, maybe let's get like conspiracy theorists, all right, it's not available to you, Tyler, you don't know. Well, and maybe it's available to these select places. Well, those ads are, let's say it's Huggies diapers, okay? Huggies is paying for this. They would need to be informed that that data was being used to target their audience, because they're paying for those ads, and that's not happening. So the answer is no. It's just that means addressable media is becoming better and better to predict what you need, because, like I said, we know when you got your last pair of shoes and that they're falling apart.
Right. So do you think it's good or bad that we can be predicted so well that maybe it limits our exploration of maybe things we've just randomly would have seen? I mean, who knows? I don't know if that's a good question, but
I do. I think what I do think is good is that I haven't seen an ad that was totally irrelevant to me, you know, in a long time. You know, like a Revlon or a lipstick ad or like things like that. You know, I always thought it was annoying to see when I was like 15, you know, ads for Huggies diapers. You know, I remember always complaining about this sometimes. Like, that's happened a lot less. And what I have been, for me, I've been seeing more ads that have been helpful to me. And that you know, where there's a service or a product that I actually do use. So I think it's good, and that there are products that help us, that help the world, that are supposed to inform us. It's not all about selling things. And so if we can, and a lot of those organizations don't have a lot of money. So they can't just bomb everyone with ads. So if we can help them place those dollars to people where that matter the most, I think that's good for the world.
Yeah. So that gets to the question, Tyler, that I saw Nancy put up of how do small businesses use this? Well,
so just like large businesses, actually. So one of the great thing is that what programmatic did is that it allowed small businesses to make what were sometimes smaller advertising budgets become more meaningful. Remember, I was like, this is all about efficiency as a function of cost. That allowed small businesses to say, okay, I want to be on the cover of the New York Times. I want to have a commercial on Apple TV, but I don't have Coke's budget. Well, you don't need Coke's budget anymore. We're at an auction now. So whatever the budget is, if it's $5,000, then we'll buy $5,000 worth of ads. It's not like you need to hit a certain threshold to get to a certain publisher. You know, so it's just a matter about how many eyeballs you'll reach. So it's perfect for small businesses in the sense it's now allowed them a seat at the table.
Hey, Tyler, got a quick one here from Raymond. I hope you can answer in a minute or less. But question is, how has Apple and Google's removal of cookies affected programmatic buying?
Great question. So Apple didn't really have that much of an effect, but the cookie's been crumbling for years. We've been preparing for this. The industry is reacting by basically, you know, we saw this as an oil dependency, and so this wasn't as scary to us. It's actually helping the industry move forward. And you know, a lot of this is about IP targeting now. Cookies are ancient. We needed to get away from it. We think this is a positive, and they've given us enough time to invent a solution to replace cookies.
Great. All right, we got one more minute. Do we have one last? Bill, you want to close out with your? Tyler, thank you so much.
You.
And Grapeseed Media is the name of Tyler's company. So if anyone has further questions or want to talk to him, I'm sure he'd be glad to continue the conversation. We could go on forever to learn more about how we're being tracked in a positive way. All right, Bill.
Yeah, no. So as you know, starting with the Tour de France. And I'm going to leave you with a thought, okay? Really smart guy, long time ago, wrote a proverb. It was 8:10. 8:10 to 11. It says, take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and that you excuse me, and all you may desire cannot compare to her. In these times of troubled times, as we have a chance to really think, I would tell people to read, to study, and to think. Because I think that some really cool stuff's going to pop out of this group that's on this phone call, and the people that watch it afterwards. So I would encourage you to shoot us any thoughts you got about that. But it's, yeah, that guy was Solomon. Okay. So
wisdom. He wants wisdom.
anyway, yeah, he wants wisdom. He could add anything he wanted. He wanted wisdom. So anyway, anybody got any dedications? Anything? You know that okay, I'll give you one, just not dedication, but our son John is about to become a Navy SEAL, just got engaged on Saturday. We're pretty excited about that. He's got 5 jumps left in his, or 10, I guess 10, and his instructor got COVID, so they're being put back a while. But, you know, I just thank all that. I continually think about all the frontline responders and the people that take care of all of us. And my family, as I look at you all the time, I just thank you for your service. You know, without you guys, we would probably not be sitting here. So anyway, with that, I say hip hip hooray!
Hey!
Hip hip hooray!
Hey!
Hip hip hooray!
God,
And look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys.